what to eat the day of the audition. Hi dancers, welcome back to Nutrition for Dancers with me, Rachel, registered dietitian nutritionist, and as per usual, I am here to help you build sustainable habits, especially as they relate to both your plate and your body. So first things first, let's talk about audition season. Auditions, whether you are a seasoned professional dancer or a pre-professional dance student, are stressful. Now, not only might you be experiencing the usual pre-audition jitters, but the actual audition itself. Let's think about it. You are often in a new environment. You could be surrounded by many new dancers, and you might even be taught by someone you've never taken class from before, right? A new teacher, a new director. For so many dancers, it can feel like the success of your audition is so out of your immediate control, right? Because oftentimes you are leaving a decision up to a third-party person, whether it's that teacher, whether it's that director. And this can cause a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety for so many dancers. But I do want you to realize that there are so many tools that you can implement as a dancer to help optimize your audition in a way that really does set you up for success. In this video, we're going to talk about some of those tools. But before we even do that, I do want you to become aware of these realities, that auditions are stressful and that it's very normal, even likely, that you are going to be experiencing some pre-audition jitters, some nerves, some anxieties. So it's a matter of how we can learn to navigate those experiences in the best and most sustainable way possible so that you can find success with that audition. Success not only being defined by the potential acceptance at the audition, but by even just the personal growth that you might experience. Remember, success isn't only defined by you getting that role or getting that spot in that intensive. We can and even should consider the success of your audition by you simply just showing up for what is often a very scary and big important matter for a dancer. So I always like to start with that, with the realization that you can redefine what success means. This might help set the stage for you to build a stronger platform with more confidence once you actually get to that audition. Your success, moving through that class, moving through that performance, being able, as I said earlier, to just show up for that experience, that is a major milestone. That is success in and of itself. But shifting into this mindset might not always come naturally for a dancer. Oftentimes, the comparative thoughts do overwhelm us, especially when we are in those environments of being around new dancers, new teachers, and so forth. So what are some actionable tools that you can do to start supporting your mindset? I want you to create a toolbox of activities that can help the day of, the morning of your audition. These activities are personal to you and ones that can help you navigate through those times of heightened emotional responses like stress or anxiety, what you might be feeling, before the audition. A couple examples might be just listening to music. Believe it or not, listening to music helps to release a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is that feel-good hormone that you may have heard about previously. So listening to music is one such example of an activity that you can turn to help support during that time of anxiety and stress. I like to personally create two different playlists. This is what I always used to do. One was a bit of like my pump it up playlist. It was music that was a bit more inspiring to me, got me going, even got my blood flowing a bit. And the other was more of a calming playlist, something when I needed to just wind down. Both of these were really helpful options for me to kind of just keep as an easy accessible playlist on my phone. Another tool that can help you at the morning of the audition, this is something that always helped me, was creating a flexible routine. Now remember, rigid schedules are not recommended simply because life can get in the way. Anything like a delayed train schedule is something that technically technically could happen even the day of the audition. So we don't want to be too inflexible in this routine, but constructing a flexible routine of habitual but sustainable activities can help to provide you with some sort of comfort. As I mentioned earlier, audition day, the actual audition itself can feel somewhat uncomfortable for dancers, especially when it's a new environment, new class, new teacher, whatever it might be. So implementing some bit of comfort, some bit of structure can be helpful, but we want it to be flexible. Some examples for me were foam rolling, like I said, listening to music on the way there, reviewing any choreography, and we're gonna get to this soon, but even implementing a flexible eating routine can be helpful as well. And the final tool that always helped me to alleviate those pre-audition jitters is the practice of visualization. So this is exactly as it sounds. You simply close your eyes and you picture yourself going into the studio, going into the audition. How does it turn out for you? How are the other dancers around you? How is your mindset? How are you moving through space? Are you considering the transitions of your movements? You can even visualize yourself partaking in any planned choreography that you might have, or just simple class exercises as well. Visualization can be super helpful to pave the way for a bit more comfort before the audition. Obviously, visualization works really well if you know the studio and you know the environment where you are auditioning. That's not always the case, but this tool can still help even if you are not quite familiar with that environment. Now, I'm a dietitian, so there's no doubt I wasn't going to be discussing the biggest question of all, is what should we eat the day of the audition? Something that dancers ask all the time. So let's break it down, because pre-performance nutrition is something that can help to optimize our performance in the studio, especially when we get there. The goal is to make sure that we are creating this framework of energy that's going to sustain us for the long run, and of course considering recovery after the audition, especially if you have many auditions lined up throughout audition season, then it is incredibly important for you to prioritize recovery. Let's break it down. First up, you want to optimize your energy reserve. Now, a dancer's preferred source of energy, so this means your body, what it prefers to burn as an energy source to support your dancing, are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates from food break down into derivatives like glucose. Glucose helps to fuel your movement. Specifically, glucose helps to replenish glycogen stores. Glycogen is essentially stored glucose on your extremities, on your muscles, that your body can tap into for intense dancing. So the goal is to make sure that we are topping off those glycogen reserves before you even get into that studio. Now, here's the thing, when we're thinking of pre-performance nutrition, meal timing does play an important role. In the 3 to 4 hours prior to your audition, so I'm thinking maybe breakfast, early morning, or if your audition is in the afternoon, this could be lunch, this could be an early morning snack. You want to remember balance. This is key, balance among the 3 macronutrients, but when it comes to those carbohydrates, we're thinking of complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are a bit more fibrous. They're going to support longer lasting levels of energy. Complex carbohydrates are mainly coming from plant-based foods and starches. So we're thinking legumes, grains, this could be breads and pastas, specifically whole grain breads, whole grain pastas, maybe lentil pastas, starchy veggies like potatoes, squash. These are all great sources of complex starches that are providing you with that fibrous, long-lasting energy. Now, the closer you get to that audition, the more we want to start thinking about simpler carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates essentially mean that they are lower in fiber. They're easier for your body to digest and therefore easier for your body to access that energy from. Simple carbohydrates come from foods like fruits, fruit juices, snack chips, and pretzels. Goldfish, these are all examples of simpler carbohydrates that can provide you with that energy as you get closer to the time of dancing. These types of carbohydrates can also be helpful within the hour after your audition for that recovery, because that is a time that we call the optimal recovery window. Your body is especially ready to absorb nutrition at that time. So providing it with an easily accessible source to replenish your muscle glycogen is something that will benefit you. And if you pair this along with some other macronutrients like protein and fat, then you're gonna really reap the benefits. You're really gonna promote muscle protein synthesis as well. So in the sports nutrition world, we often suggest chocolate milk as being a really great recovery option. This could work after your audition as well. There's a very specific ratio of protein and carbohydrate within chocolate milk, believe it or not, that helps to support the replenishment of glycogen, but also encourage muscle protein synthesis at the same time. But there are many options as well. Any balance of protein and carbohydrates will be especially important at this time. So you could pack something like a sandwich with cold cuts and cheese, or even pair some veggies and chips with hummus. There are many different options, more of which I explain on my blog, dancenutrition.com, so be sure to check those examples out. So the day of your audition, we're focusing a lot on carbohydrates, and this is because we want to make sure we're providing our body with that energy, not just for the immediate energy, but also to ensure that we are creating an environment where energy storage is optimized within our body, and that essentially means that glycogen is being replenished. So carbohydrates, whether that's crackers or bread or pretzels or fruits or veggies, starches, whatever it might be, we really want to think about where are my sources of carbohydrates at essentially every meal or snack that I'm having. It's just the closer you get to that audition time, this is where we want to start to think about choosing foods that are a bit lower in fiber so that we can access quicker energy from them. But there's also another really important reason why, as we get closer to audition time, we want to focus on simpler carbohydrates and easily digestible foods. And that's simply because we don't want to risk stomach discomfort while we're actually at the audition. I can't tell you how often I will hear from dancers who are just struggling with a lot of discomfort and even a lot of pain at their audition, like physical discomfort. So easily digestible options become incredibly important, but also familiar options. Before the audition, it's not the time to try new foods. So keep that in mind as well. You definitely want to choose foods that your body is familiar with. You want to choose foods that you know are not going to cause any unwanted stomach distress, because your nerves before the audition are probably going to be doing that in of itself. And the goal here is to alleviate that as much as possible. So in regard to food, we're thinking familiarity, and we're also thinking easily digestible. Practicality and convenience might come into play as well, especially if you are commuting for that audition. This is where I get so upset when I hear dancers wanting to avoid processed or packaged foods. Packaged foods might very well be providing the energy a dancer would need before that audition. So remember that all or nothing mindset around packaged and processed foods, we need to dismantle it. And I have an entire blog post that does exactly that. Now, when it comes to protein is going to be helpful within those 3 to 4 hours prior to your audition, just to help create that balanced meal. It's also going to be helpful after your audition to help promote muscle protein synthesis. Now, whether you're choosing animal-based proteins or plant-based proteins, both of these options can supply the amino acids that your body needs to support recovery. If you are choosing plant-based proteins, I have an entire video, ebook, and even blog post about this. But just remember, we do want to prioritize abundance and variety, make sure that we are getting a broader spectrum of amino acids. That's sometimes easier to do with animal proteins than it is with plant-based proteins, but you can absolutely do it successfully, even on a plant-based diet. It's also important to consider that many of those plant-based proteins, like legumes, pseudo-cereals like quinoa or buckwheat, seeds, nuts, these also happen to be high in fiber. So we do want to make sure that if we are having them closer to that audition time, that they're not going to cause any unwanted stomach distress, because sometimes excessive intakes of fiber, which we don't encourage anyway, could potentially cause that stomach distress. Now, I know we're prioritizing a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of protein, but fat is also incredibly important the day of your audition, more so in the post-dance recovery period. Especially unsaturated fats like nut butters, avocados, oils. These do provide a lot of nutrients known to help alleviate inflammation, especially after intense dancing. So even though we're prioritizing carbohydrates and protein, especially carbohydrates in that pre-performance menu planning, we're also thinking about how we can incorporate sources of fat, especially within those 3 to 4 hours where we're really prioritizing protein before your audition, or in the post-dance recovery period. With the time right before the audition, within those 30 to 60 minutes, if you feel that you need that snack, and most dancers do, you really considering easily digestible foods that are familiar, foods that are not going to necessarily cause some unwanted stomach distress. Now, a few more notes for your audition day. Just to pull out some of the important things we spoke about in this video, we're thinking about how we can alleviate pre-audition jitters by finding activities that can help to boost our mindset, put us into a more calm state. Listening to music was just one example. We're also thinking about meal timing and how pre-performance meal planning, like having that meal 3 to 4 hours before your audition, having a snack within the next 2 hours, having maybe another snack within the 30 to 60 minutes before the audition, just to help for the purpose of topping off those glycogen stores prior to dancing. Those regular meal and snack times are what's going to provide you with the energy that you need. And then of course, thinking about your recovery window after the audition, making sure you're getting in those nutrients to support both glycogen replenishment and muscle protein synthesis, and the bonus of helping to alleviate any unwanted inflammation. One last note, plan ahead. Plan emergency snacks, pack them in your dance bag, trail mixes, bars. These will be incredibly important, especially because sometimes audition schedules, even for the studios and companies, tend to shift and change by the moment. Things can get delayed. You don't necessarily know how long that audition is going to be. Even if it's called for a certain amount of time, I can't even tell you how many auditions I went to that ended up being maybe even double the amount of time that one was originally called for. So I can't stress this enough. Pack emergency snacks. That is incredibly important for the day of your audition. I hope you found this video helpful and supportive. If you have follow-up questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I have an ebook that can be super helpful. I have an entire program, the Healthy Dancer program, that dives into everything you need to know even on audition day. And I even have a special audition package within the program that you can utilize throughout your entire audition season, where you can meet with me one-on-one and we can discuss the plan that's really gonna support you. Best of luck, you got this.